a backup. Cool. Well, welcome, Talon, to the 2025 Winter Candidate Q&A session for the 501c3 nonprofit MNFurs. This is a absentee session as Talon was not able to attend the in-person event due to work commitments, but we are doing that here now in the comfort of Microsoft Teams. Thanks everyone for coming, or thanks for watching this YouTube video. The duration of the Q&A is normally 2 hours long, but since it's just me and Talon here without the other candidates giving their responses, this session or this video should be much shorter. But everyone is encouraged to go watch the other sessions on YouTube as well to get a good understanding of the entire candidate pool. The rules are the same as previous years. I believe there's about 15 or 20 questions or in that range. Each candidate is given 2 minutes per question. The question pool for this year was entirely rewritten, but with some old familiar ones from previous years. Talon has not had access to any of the other questions or anything before this, so Talon has an unbiased thing for this. It is also expected that Talon, being remote, will not be using any assistive technologies like AI or large language models. And I trust that Talon is remaining faithful in that one. The video copy, which you are watching right here, right now, so I don't need to say that. The other candidates this year, Alpha White Fang, Aubrey, Gita, Kirsten, Talon. All the bios are available online. Voting will open December 17th. Volunteer hours are due September 17th, which of the day of recording, that's tomorrow. Voting will start December 19th. Voting will be conducted online, and voting is available to anyone with 20 or more hours of volunteer time. All voting will be done on our volunteer portal. I pretty much just said everything that this slide says here. Voting codes will not be needed this year as we're using a new platform. Just simply log on to the volunteer portal, and if you are eligible, you'll see on the dashboard how to vote. Voting closes at basically midnight, 11:59 on the 9th of January, and the results will be released shortly thereafter. Ready to go, Talon?
Yep.
Cool. Basically, I'll start the timer when you start talking, or if you are kind of pondering or mulling the question over, I will start the timer shortly after I ask it. So that's how this works. Okay. Cool. First question, Talon. What do you think is the most important responsibility of the board of directors in a volunteer-run nonprofit like MNFurs?
I think there's a lot of things that are important responsibilities for the board of directors, considering they have a lot of hats. But the entire purpose of a board of directors is to help a nonprofit like MNFurs remain solvent. So make sure that we are sticking with the mission that we have set forth as a nonprofit. As a nonprofit, we are meant to have, especially an educational one, a mission that we are moving towards. For us, it's education and having a community for furries in Minnesota and to teach the outlying communities, not that aren't furries. And so the board of directors, their whole purpose is to make sure that financially we're doing what we're meant to be doing. We are meant to be making sure that our community is safe. We are meant to be ensuring that the events we say we will put on are actually being put on. So essentially, we are here to, or the board is here to assure that things are running as they are meant to, both within the legal confines of a nonprofit and the community confines of a nonprofit.
Working on the board sometimes means working with individuals that you may not personally get along with. What are some ways that you would handle this?
I think that I already have some degree of experience with this, considering that I am already on the board. Honestly, I treat it like it is a job. At my work, I have to work with people I don't necessarily like quite often, whether that be coworkers or clients. And mostly that just means everybody is, if it's a staff member, both me and that staff member are here to serve the organization. We're both here because we care about it and want to see it succeed. Um, and the best way to do that is to be civil. We don't have to be best friends with everybody that we work with, but we do have to be polite and civil enough to get the job done. So what that looks like is um, talking with them in a way that is calm, not using, derogatory or prodding language if, there's no need for that. Um, and if for whatever reason there was someone that, because of whatever personal differences I absolutely could not work with, then the appropriate step would be to find people who you can outsource, if possible, you can outsource that job onto, or delegate to, or just say, hey, I have a major conflict of interest here. I will not be able to handle whatever this task is appropriately and without bias, and so someone else needs to do it. Um, and like I said, being on the board already, I do have some degree of experience with that.
What is your understanding of your fiduciary responsibilities if elected to the board?
The biggest one of the fiduciary responsibilities is being very upfront about any conflicts of interest, whether those be positive or negative. Like I said in my last answer, that would be me and this person we used to be friends, for example, and now we had a major falling out. That would be me saying, I am not able to vote on anything regarding this person fairly because I will be inherently biased. Or it's, I actually work at this place. This person is my partner. This person is my friend. Um, you have to be very explicitly clear and upfront about all of these. Otherwise, you are human beings are inherently biased. That's not something that we can change. But we can purposefully remove ourselves from the situation if we think that how we know someone is going to bias what we do. That also looks like ensuring that funds that are spent for the organization are being spent in a way that fulfills the mission of the organization. So that means, not throwing 82 frivolous parties during the year just for fun, or going with really expensive options for no other reason than we can. That means, looking at a venue and going, this venue meets the same requirements as this venue, but this one is cheaper, and going with the things that more financially protect the organization as well.
What do you believe is the difference between the role of a board member and the role of staff or department leads?
So the board is in charge of the greater logistics, I suppose, of the organization. Staff members and even department leads typically have a niche that they're fulfilling. So, for example, outside of the board, I am a moderator for the Discord. That means that my job is just overseeing the Discord. And if anything were to come up that is outside of that scope, I'm supposed to bring it to whoever's above me. And if there is nobody above me, then I would bring that to the board. Meanwhile, the board handles the whole oversight for the organization. So that looks like the financials, like disciplinary actions, things that help the organization as a whole keep running legally and also financially. And so it is not the job of the board to micromanage individual staff, but it is the role of the board to ensure that staff have what they need to be successful and to ensure that things are actually getting done correctly and timely. Um, Whereas staff, like I said, have their specific niche that they're supposed to usually be working in.
What does success for MNFurs look like to you at the end of your board term, and how do you measure success?
I think that, I mean, obviously success looks different for everybody. For me, it looks like we are still solvent as an organization. We are doing well financially, and that our community is happy. There is no point in us having an organization if the people that make up the organization hate it. If they hate how we're moving, if they hate the direction we've gone in, if they're completely unsatisfied with the events that we've been holding, they don't feel that we're fulfilling our end of the bargain, especially because so many people are gracious enough to donate. Um, that does not look like success to me. So for me, I just want to see it continue to move forward and be successful. I have, in terms of people showing up, I've been in an organization before where it was just slowly dying out because there was not new members coming in to replace the people who were leaving. Um, and you can put on all the events that you want, but if you do not have the members to come to them, it doesn't matter. So for me, success at the end of my term is just people are still showing up, people are still happy. It's obviously impossible to make everybody happy, but if we look at the majority of our member base and they go, yeah, we're having a good time. We appreciate what's going on. We appreciate the things that you're doing. That is what is most important to me. So long as, of course, we're still fulfilling all of the legal requirements of a nonprofit.
This one is from the community. Per the 2025 board retreat and as posted in the Discord every 3 days, there is a projected budget deficit of $6,950 for the 2025-2026 financial year. How do you plan to balance the budget?
So this one is one, a good question. Two, we have been very beneficial, I guess, in this year. That's not the word I'm looking for, but we've been very lucky that our community this year has really stepped up in terms of finances. We have gotten quite a bit more in terms of donations this year than we were expecting, or even that we could have hoped for. But we can't guarantee that every year people are going to make, high donation amounts or that a lot of people are going to continue donating like this. Um, and so I think that continuing to come up with new and exciting merch is one good way of doing it. We have seen that if we provide merchandise that is different than just say a plain shirt, people want to buy it. One, because they want to support us, but two, because it looks cool. It's exciting. People want to show that they're part of the organization. So continuing to give our merchandise team that freedom, I think will help. But also genuinely, I do think just stressing the importance of it to our members helps. Because I think a lot of people take it for granted and they just don't think about it. They go, oh, cool, romp, I'm going to go to a romp. Oh, cool, picnic, I'm going to go to a picnic. And they don't think about what does it cost the organization to host these things. But if we are honest and upfront with them about it and say, hey, guys, we want to continue to keep providing this. We want the picnics continue to be free. We want the holiday party to continue to be free. People are going to donate because if they can, because they appreciate it. And I think just continuing to be transparent will help.
What does belonging mean to you in the context of MNFurs, and how can the board help foster it?
Another good question. For me personally, in the context of MNFurs, belonging means that I feel like I should be going to events, or at the very least, I'm allowed to. As a person, I am someone who is very introverted and I have very high social anxiety. And there has been more than one occasion that I have gone to an organization or an event and I don't know anybody and no one seems to make an effort to change that. And I'm not someone who can just break into a pre-existing group and thrive. I need someone to like extend a hand and be like, hey, my name's so and so. Do you want to come join my people? And so one of the big things with MNFurs for me is that I went to a Perkins meet when we were still doing them. I did not know a single person there. And several of our members went, oh, hey, you're a new face. I've not seen you before. And introduced themselves to me and essentially adopted me. And that small action made it so that I was more confident going to more events. So to me, belonging is feeling comfortable or at least knowing that people will be looking out for you if you were to go to an event, to help you feel comfortable. And I think that the board can continue to help foster that by one, continuing to do like welcome tables at big events, where people who maybe are new to the event can come in and meet, established members. But I think it also looks like the board continuing to be a present figure in the community so that people don't see them as some unattainable, distant figures that are making decisions for them, and that makes them uncomfortable.
Do you need a break?
I do not.
From the community, as people who potentially hold multiple roles, how do you ensure that each of those roles are adequately fulfilled? And how do you plan to manage your workload?
So currently, I am, at the time of recording this, the president of MNFurs on the board of director. I am the head, I guess, of communications. I do the social media and communications for MNFurs. I moderate the Discord. I'm the lead moderator. I'm also the department head of social media for furry migration. So that's quite a few things. Um, Honestly, I make sure that my job is getting all of those jobs are getting adequately filled just by keeping a schedule, honestly, of this is when this thing is due. This is when this thing is due. I need to make sure to do this. I write it down for myself because I have a bad memory and I will forget. And if I feel that I am slacking in an area, I will try and find someone to help me with it. I had onboarded someone new to communications for MNFurs because I felt like it would be useful and help me do my role in other positions better. Um, so I guess how would I plan to manage your workload is just continue doing what I'm doing, making sure that I'm planning things effectively, making sure that I'm writing myself notes so that I don't forget anything, giving myself days off because sometimes I feel like, oh, I need to do work every single day or I'm going to be ignoring things. That is not good for anybody's mental health. That's what causes burnout. Um, so just doing things like, all right, you know what? Today I'm not doing that. Today I'm going to be uh, playing a video game or something. Obviously, with the caveat that if it's time sensitive, you can't really do that. But um, just delegating when need be and writing myself notes to remember when I need to.
If elected to the board of directors, what actions do you feel need to be taken in order to help bring the organization to the next level?
I am going to be completely honest in that I don't think that there is a next level we should be striving towards. In my eyes, in call back to the previous question about success, just being steady where we're at, having sustainable growth is what I would like to see. I think that when organizations start reaching too far or trying to be too incredible, too like beyond their means, is when they fail. Because usually that gets more expensive, usually that is asking more of your members, and usually that is asking more of your staff. Um, and so genuinely, I don't know that there is a next level. um, I think that the directions we are moving is already appropriate. We are getting new member growth, but we're also getting more donations in from the community. That means that we can do things like update our storage, which is something we just did. It means that we can update our venues to be better fitting for the community. It means we can look into, um, cooler events or maybe slightly more expensive events, but that would more broadly um, entertain isn't the word I'm looking for, but more broadly entertain our community. I don't think it's reasonable to go, and I think we should buy a community center for MNFurs because one, that's not very sustainable, and two, a lot of that stuff I don't even think is needed. Um, I think that we should mostly be focusing on continuing to gradually increase the things we need to correspond with our member level and our member needs.
What hobbies do you have besides being a furry?
That's fun. So hobbies that kind of are adjacent to being a furry, I guess. I do draw quite a bit. I also have been learning to make plushies. Recently I made a dragon plushie. It was cute. I'm now working on two more. I do write fan fiction mostly. If I am particularly inspired by a piece of media. But other than that, I really like to read, and I really like to play video games with my friends. I also work with animals a lot, both as a career and as, for fun. So I like trying to get my cat to learn tricks and mostly failing at it. Trying to get my rabbit to learn tricks and mostly failing at it. But number one hobby is art. I spend a lot of time drawing.
A scenario: an organization that is entirely unrelated to Minnesota furs but fills the same market announces a new furry convention in Duluth, Minnesota. How do you react?
Um, I mean, first of all, our members aren't a product. They're not something to be won. I think that if people liked what this other organization was putting forward, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that people would want to join it. Similarly, if there was another furry convention in Duluth, there's honestly a lot of people, a lot of Duluth furs who I never get to see because that is too long of a drive for me. Um, so it might even help fill a niche that is missing with MNFurs. But I don't know. I don't think that another organization, just because it is furry, is inherently a competition. And even if it was, either people think MNFurs is something worthwhile or they think it's lacking. Obviously, there's things that we can change to make individual members happier with the organization. Um, but what we have has been going on for as long as it has because we have something special. Um, there is not a lot of organizations like this out there. And if another organization popped up and could do the same things we were doing and be successful, I'd be happy for them. I also think it's unlikely, just because it's a lot of work. But how I would react, I would be excited. I'd probably be intrigued, and honestly, maybe it would be a fun thing to do partnerships of some sort, or combined events. But I don't think that there would be any reason to be hostile, because, like I said, our members aren't products. They're not something to be bought. They're human people or furry people who can make their own decisions about what they like, what they want to see, and what feedback they want to give.
What inspired you to run for a position on the Minnesota Furs board of directors?
So originally, so this, if I get reelected, that will be my second term. For my first term, I had already been a moderator on the Discord. I'd already been doing communications work, and I'd already been doing some work for the uh, convention. And I was nominated onto the board of directors by someone who felt that I could do a good job of it. And I really like to be helpful if I can. I really want to try and make things better for people if it's within my capabilities, and I thought that it was. And I feel that I am dedicated to helping the convention, or not the convention, the organization succeed. I think that I have the willpower to maintain that traction. I'm not just, start off really hot and then drop down in my interest levels. So that's why I started originally. I am rerunning because I feel that I have been doing a good job on the board. I also feel that it is beneficial to have board members who are maybe on there for more than one term at the same time as people who are new, because I feel that it helps new incoming board members who have never been on the board if they have more quote unquote experienced board members to bounce their ideas off of. And I think it also helps the quote unquote experienced board members to get fresh ideas from new people. And so, long answer, I guess, all of that. Short answer, I want to continue helping our members in the community.
What scares you the most about being on the board?
Uh, knowing things about people I didn't necessarily want to know. By which I mean, when you're on the board, you get involved, willingly or not, in a lot of um, behavior concerns. Sometimes that's stuff that the board actually has a say on. Quite often, it is something that we don't have jurisdiction on. But it does mean you learn a lot of interpersonal drama that maybe you didn't want to know. Um, so that's, I guess, maybe not the most, but that's the one that immediately comes to mind. What scares me the most about being on the board is somehow doing a bad job, and letting the community down. Uh, for the brutally honest answer, because I wouldn't want to do this job if I felt I wouldn't be at least somewhat competent at it, and it would I would not be happy to learn that I have thought I've been doing a decent job this whole time, and in actuality, I haven't been.
What is a Minnesota Furs event, tradition, or moment that really made you feel like this is my community?
So I talked a little bit before about how I went to an event, a Perkins meet, and I didn't know anybody there. It was my very first MNFurs event. Um, I had never been to one before. I didn't know that the organization even existed. And I went and I was so nervous. Like I said, social anxiety so high. And someone immediately, pretty much at the beginning, looked at me and went, "Oh, hey, I don't think I've seen you before. My name is so and so." Um, and I went, "Okay, maybe this is doable for me." Um, and so that helped. And then I went to a picnic and I got really overwhelmed because I didn't know anybody again. And I actually left that picnic early because I didn't feel like I could get in, quote unquote, with anybody there to strike up a conversation. But then I went to the next big event and someone again saw that I was by myself and that I didn't know anybody. And they went out of their way to make sure that I felt like I had someone to talk to. And then they introduced me to their friends. And they let me sit at their table. And that specifically made me think this community is full of some really wonderful people. And they invited me to come to an event later too. So clearly I hadn't scared them off by being myself. And that is what really cemented for me that I wanted to continue going to events, because people made me feel like I was able and allowed to continue coming to events.
Yay! Uh,
Yay!
and with that, that concludes all the questions for the Q&A. Talon, thank you for your time. Something that I've said to all the candidates that I'm going to say again here. With the number of candidates that we have running and the number of seats that are available on the board, unfortunately, not everyone's going to make the cut, and that is okay. Everyone can make a difference, even if you don't make it to the board, just being a staff member or just in any way, it helps. So don't feel discouraged. It's, yeah, exactly that. So cool. Thanks, Talon. And with that, the recording is over.
Wow.
Okay.
Yippee.